Hi guys, welcome to homework helper number 8. Today we're going to show you how to analyze the different parts of an experiment by using the same tools that we used in class. So let's go ahead and get started. Whenever we read, we always want to read for understanding. So we're underlining, highlighting, and circling. So let's begin. It says, a scientist hypothesizes that homing pigeons use their sense of smell to find their way home. She tests this idea on 2 groups of pigeons. I already know that I have 2 groups that I'm dealing with. She releases 10 pigeons in group 1, and she records the direction of their flight. She releases 10 more pigeons in group 2, and a substance that blocks their sense of smell for a short period of time. The scientist then releases them and records the direction of their flight. So think about what we talked about in class. We always said that we want to put ourselves in the experiment. So I know that a scientist is doing this, so everywhere I see a scientist, I'm going to say I. So I hypothesize that homing pigeons use their sense of smell to find their way home. I test this idea on 2 groups of pigeons. I release 10 pigeons in group 1 and record the direction of their flight. The 10 pigeons in group 2 are given a substance that blocks their sense of smell, and then it says I then release them and record the direction of their flight. Now that we have that information, what we want to do is make sure that we know all of these definitions here, because if we don't know the definitions, we won't be able to find the answers in the reading. So let's start with the independent variable. In class, we told you that the independent variable is the thing that I change. That's the reason why we went back up into our paragraph and we changed the researcher to us. The dependent variable is the thing that I'm measuring. So it's the data that I'm looking for. So let's see if we can find these 2. In class, we told you that you can always find the IV and the DV in the first sentence. So let's look at the first sentence again. It says, I hypothesize that homing pigeons use their sense of smell to find their way home. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be manipulating the sense of smell. So I already know that this is my IV. What am I then going to measure once I manipulate their sense of smell? I'm going to see if they can find their way home. So finding their way home is going to be my DV. So now all I have to do is write that down in here. So my independent variable is going to be sense of smell. My dependent variable is whether or not they can find their way home. All right, now that I have my IV and DV, the next thing that I want to do is look and see if I can identify my experimental groups and my control group. Before we can do that, we have to make sure that we know the definition. Remember, my experimental group is the group that gets the IV. So what is the IV in my experiment? It has to do with sense of smell. So anytime you see me changing or messing with sense of smell, that's going to be the group that's my experimental. My control group is the group that stays the same, and then we need it to compare. And we also had a chant in class, right? So it's a group that stays the same, we need it to compare. We also said that this is the normal group, so we're not doing anything to it. It's what normally would happen. So let's see if we can go up into our experiment and find the experimental group. So I know that I have 2 groups, so I know one of them has to be the control and one of them has to be the experimental. So let's see which one I messed with. So it says, I release 10 pigeons in group 1 and record the direction of their flight. Doesn't sound like I did anything to that group, so I'm going to leave that one alone. The next group, it says the 10 pigeons in group 2 are given a substance that blocks their sense of smell for a short time. So it looks like I've actually done something to this group. I'm manipulating their sense of smell, so this is the group that gets the IV. So my experimental group for this experiment is going to be group 2. My control group, again, is the normal group. It's the group that I don't do anything to. So if I look back up here, I know that group 2 I manipulated. Let's see if we did anything to group 1 again. It says I just released 10 pigeons and I recorded the direction of their flight. So I'm not doing anything to their sense of smell. So that means group 1 has to be my control group. Now, constants in an experiment are really important. These are all the things that stay the same. So let's think about this. What things are the same for both my experimental and my control group? So I know I have 2 groups. Are we using the same type of bird in each group? It looks like we are. So we're using pigeons for both groups. So we're using pigeons. We're using the same number of pigeons, so we have 10 for each group, right? So these 2 things are both control or constants. We can go back and we can find some more if we wanted to. We can say we have the same researcher. And I'm sure that you can find some more if you spent some more time with the experiment. So those are the answers to homework number 8. Please make sure that you study it because you do have a quiz the next time you come to class.